gonna climb a tree.
Watch out.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Forbidden Limb podcast. I say another episode even though this is our first episode on the Dice Tower Network, and we're excited to be here. We hope you're excited too, because we want to hear back from you guys. We want to be a regular part of the Dice Tower, and but we'd like to introduce ourselves first. I'm Richard New. This is Jeremy Commander and Brian Hink. Jeremy, this is a podcast about the business of game design. Jeremy, what is your interest in that?
Sure. I'm a game designer. I do that as a hobby for fun. And I'm also what I call a Kickstarter super backer. I've backed about 300 projects on Kickstarter, most of them board games. So I've seen lots of game designers come and go, and some of them do very well, and some of them fail spectacularly. And I see a lot of game designers learning the same lessons over and over again. So my goal as part of the podcast is to share some of the lessons I've learned the hard way and that I've seen others learn, so that if you're a game designer and you think you have a great game, but you're not sure, how do I get this to market? How do I put it on Kickstarter? Do I go with a publisher? Where do I find art? What does a contract look like? What is all this stuff about file types? I'm here to help you through that process and hopefully give you some information that's going to make your life easier.
We're going to talk about some of that today.
You got it.
Brian, what's your experience with the game design world?
Yeah, well, where Jeremy talks more about the design perspective, I'm a newer publisher, so I'm learning all these lessons myself as a publisher, and making plenty of mistakes, and I'm hoping that I can talk about some of the things I've gone through, talk about the things that went well and the things that didn't go well. That's the most important part. So that's what I'm taking. I'm taking the publisher perspective and try to give everybody as much information about that side of things, both the indie publisher perspective and then also as we're becoming more of a kind of a traditional publisher. So kind of try to get both sides there.
All right then. Me myself, I'm just sort of an avid game player. I enjoy playing a lot of your games. They're all fun. Good Cop, Bad Cop is Brian's, and it's fantastic as well.
It's a great game. Everyone should own that game.
Absolutely.
Dice Tower's best small game of the year.
And I'm actually just getting involved. One of the reasons I love doing this is because Jeremy gives some great tips for me, and I'm just getting started designing my own first game. So hopefully I can use a lot of these tips, and we'll be able to walk you through that process from a newbie's point of view. And so a lot of it is me asking the dumb questions because I don't know anything yet, and these two are going to help me out.
You're the everyman.
Exactly.
You bring the real world perspective. Like, what the heck is a CMYK? What is that? And that kind of stuff. So that's great.
Today we're going to be talking about where I can get my art. We're talking about more or less a prototype of the game today, but where should I start by getting art? How amazing does the art need to be? Like, does it should I start with get the best pictures that I possibly can? What draws people to the game? Stuff like that. So let's get started with just the basic idea. Where should I get just simple art for the first round of my game playtesting, and just Google Images? What?
Sure.
Yeah, so Google Images is a great resource, but a lot of people use it. You're not really supposed to, because that...
Well, so the Google Image search, this image search
just
function.
searching for random images. But a lot of times you can find an image that has like a watermark on it, and then it will take you to that site where you can actually pay for that image to be able to use it, or pay for a subscription, or you can get it the right way, right?
If you're a game designer, you should be smart enough to use the advanced search in the image search, and you can search by license. So you can say, hey, I only want images that have a Creative Commons license or are in the public domain. And so that is a possible way of doing things. I'm trying to steer away from that, and I would encourage you to steer away from that, because if you use that kind of stuff, you may be okay, but sooner or later you're going to tick somebody off. And so that's playing with fire. So instead, I'm going to give you some alternate resources. And you asked two questions. Where can I go to get artwork for my game? And how good does it have to be? I'd say when you're starting out in the prototyping phase, it does not have to be that good. Your artwork needs to be functional, clear, and easy to understand. And I have some game designers that I've literally sat down to play their game, and it's a spreadsheet printed out. Mm-hmm. And their opinion is that you don't need any artwork. You're just testing the game mechanics. And if you are testing with all game designers, that's true. They will play your game and give you feedback on just the mechanics. But if you're playing with normal people and casual players, they will not play a game that looks that ugly. You need some sort of art on your game to make it... You need curb appeal. Someone needs to come up and see your prototype and go, oh, that looks kind of cool. I want to try that. Especially if you're going to like an unpub or a protospiel and competing with others, or even your local prototype night, your game has to be appealing.
I've never played one of your games without some picture on the front. Like, it's just, like, there's a game that I don't know if you want to talk about it yet,
sure.
But the game that you are just starting off designing recently is the stock one.
The stock one. So there's that one I just commissioned artwork for because I need to get some sort of artwork. I know I need artwork on there. So my design partner, he has this habit of just knocking things out of Google Image Search, which I think is not a great idea. And so he'll send me something that he has mocked up with just doing something like that. But then that, now I really can't show that anywhere in public because that could potentially get me in legal trouble. So I need me to replace any kind of artwork with that, with either artwork that I know I have a license for or that I have commissioned myself.
So Brian, where did you start off with Good Cop, Bad Cop? What kind of art did you start with?
So yeah, it's been kind of a while now, but my publishing partner and design partner Clayton, he actually just kind of mocked up something. It was very simple art, kind of like a silhouette style, but he created it himself, and he's much more artistic than me, but he's not an actual artist. But he still made something. It was basically like a symbol. So in the game there's like an honest cop and a crooked cop. So there was like a pretty simple symbol with like a I don't know what it was, like a heart or something, and in the crooked one had like it looked like an evil, it had like devil horns.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was angel and devil kind of a thing.
Sure.
So, but it was a simple image, and we used that, and it got it across. Like, hey, that's an honest symbol, and that's a crooked
You don't have to pay
symbol.
for that.
That's
that's
exactly.
You made it yourself.
But it does take some time. So I mean, he did a pretty good job. So it actually did look good. It had some curb appeal.
Okay.
And actually, when we did our Kickstarter campaign, people were like, "Hey, I actually like the original art better." Than he did. But that's another topic. So.
Okay. Jeremy, where can I go and find some art that I can use that is either public domain or easy to get and is of good quality?
You got it. I'm going to give you a couple of my favorites I use the most, and then rapid fire a bunch of others you can also use. The one I personally use the most is called the nounproject.com.
All right.
And they have a searchable icon database with just tons and tons of icons in it. So if I wanted an angel or demon icon, I can get one from the Noun Project. I can either use that icon for free with attribution under a Creative Commons license, or I can buy it for like $1. Or I just turned on the Pro account, and with the Pro account, I get unlimited icons for $10 a month. And all I can eat icons, and they have a great Mac app client that just came out. So if you're Mac based, it calls it up like a floating window, and in any app you can just drag and drop the images right in and build out your game. It's an amazing tool. So the nounproject.com is my personal favorite. I also use Game Icons, game-icons.net often. That's also an icon database. That's very useful. And another one I found very useful is the National Gallery of Art. The Smithsonian and the government has digitized the government's artwork collections for the Smithsonian and a lot of other museums.
Fascinating.
And so you can go search by year. Like I want art from a certain historical period because I have a historical game. You can go and say, oh, show me stuff from the Napoleonic era. Show me stuff from the Renaissance. And you'll see all this artwork that's been digitized that is also under a Creative Commons or Fair Use license.
So overall, we should probably point out that there is a difference between like symbols and artwork. And usually, when you're making a prototype, you should probably go more towards the symbols. Just get some symbols; they're easy to understand, they're very clear. And artwork, you can bring that in later on.
I would agree with that. Symbols and icons is enough. An angel or devil icon on your cards is enough to convey what it is. You don't have to have color or illustration, just so there's something there, and it's not like a blank card with a pencil drawing or something. You want to have that curb appeal. Other sites you can go to get artwork that's free or low cost. I'm going to say that I've used openclipart.org, which is a community source vector clip art database. Photospublicdomain.com, and it's photos-public-domain.com. I've used them especially for textures, like I wanted a brick wall or something like that. Okay. They were good for that. Flaticon.com is another icon database and a great source of grabbing stuff. and then allsilhouettes.com. And they have like gangster silhouettes and knight silhouettes and different themes. So if I have a fantasy game or a gangster game, I can find little characters silhouetted from that website.
Okay, that's great. That sounds like a great.
Yeah, these are some awesome resources. That, a lot of them I don't even know about. So I can't wait to dig into those.
I'm totally using those for my game. I'm excited to find some good artwork. So at what point in my game design process should I start thinking about getting an artist and actually making my own artwork for the game?
Well, it depends kind of on what you're trying to do, how are you going to publish this game? Are you going to publish it yourself? Are you going to do Kickstarter? Are you going to try to find a publisher? Because that's really going to change when you get artwork. If you're going to do a Kickstarter campaign, you have to have at least some art. At least some of each type of card, at least one of each type of card, and like a really nice logo. And the more established Kickstarter gets, the more you're going to have to do more. You're going to have more of the art up front. So there you should commission some of the art, if not all of the art, if you're going to do a Kickstarter campaign on your own. If you're going to go to a publisher and have them publish...
Don't do art.
Yeah, not at all. And that is a common mistake. You have some experience with that, right?
I do. This is a big mistake I made. So I've commissioned art several times now for several games. And I commissioned art for 2 of my game designs, both of which I signed with the publisher, and will be coming out sometime this year. And in both cases, the publisher looked at the game and said, hey, I like this game. I don't like the theme. And they promptly discarded the theme and any artwork. So the fact that I had paid for their artwork is useless. It is now going to sit on a shelf somewhere forever and never be used because it's the publisher's prerogative to change the theme. If I was going to self-publish with Kickstarter, then it'd be more useful to get that art. But if I'm going to show my game to a publisher and go the publisher route, I really should not be paying for art up front because there's a very good chance the publisher is going to change the theme. And so the money I spent on art went down the tubes, even though it's nice art.
But you should use some of the resources that Jeremy mentioned too to make sure it looks good. If you're going to move it, try to get a
public domain stuff, icons, stock photography, that kind of stuff. Yes, but not like original artwork. I think not if you're going to go the publisher route. I'll tell you a story. Our buddy Chris is a game designer. Made a game called Who Stole the Cookie. It's a family micro game. It's a nice micro game. It's very nice. MSRP is $6. So he paid. What did he pay? I think he paid $200 for the artwork in his game. And so far, in royalties and advances and whatever in the game, it's a micro game, so it doesn't make a lot of money. He's made $100. So he's $100 in the hole because he paid for his artwork up front. Versus if you let the publisher do that, then he would actually be profitable on that game.
Okay.
As the super backer, how much artwork your game has isn't super important to me. It hasn't been in the past, but I've backed a lot of board game projects. So I may be the exception rather than the norm. Our buddy Peyton, who's also a game designer, who has done Kickstarter campaigns, and in fact his first 2 failed, and his second one failed with $10,000. $10,000 is a ton of money, and it wasn't enough for him to hit his goal. And his third one hit $60K, which is a big Kickstarter. His philosophy is you need all your artwork up front because it's part of your marketing for your Kickstarter campaign, how good your artwork looks. And I can understand that. But on the flip side, if your campaign fails or your game doesn't launch, all the money you spent on artwork, you're out that money. You're down the tubes. And it also means that your goal on your Kickstarter campaign has to be higher because you've commissioned and paid for all this artwork. Right. So I would urge you to be cautioned. The kind of a institutional wisdom I've heard from other designers is to have 3 pieces of artwork before your game launches. And I think for New Salem, not all the artwork was done when it launched, but just a couple samples of here's what the character looks like, here what the cards look like. Can you talk about how much you had done?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you go back to Good Cop, Bad Cop, we had none of the art done. It was all that silhouette kind of symbol, like angel, devil art. And we were like, this is good enough that we could actually publish this, being our first real game that's being published. But then, midway through the campaign, it was successful, and people were like, hey, let's get some actual art on here. And so we actually did that through the campaign. And we were like, all right, we're going to change our stretch goals. We're going to now have our stretch goals be all about, purchasing art for the game, commissioning that. And so that was one way to do it, and I wouldn't recommend that. But it was what happened with our first campaign. Then
we know that Jeremy's very anti-stretch goals. So.
Right.
But does that sound like a reasonable one? If you're going to try and
artwork?
Really?
I'll answer that. That's not. No, you need to have that all planned out.
I hate stretch goals. Right. That'll be a future episode.
Yeah.
But New Salem, we had some of the art done, and it's gorgeous, gorgeous art, but also very expensive art. So we couldn't, we didn't feel comfortable fronting all of that money for the art. So we did some of it to show people how amazing it was going to be, and that was enough to get backers, make it a successful campaign. And then the problem is there were some complications, and it took much longer after we funded to actually finish the art and start fulfillment. So
Yeah,
So your stretch goals delayed your game, you say?
Yes. So now for our future games, we're going to have all of the art done up front.
Really? 100%.
Yep, that's the plan. I mean, things change. You know, the Kickstarter changes, the community changes, but for now, we're planning to have all of the art done up front.
I would say Brian is big enough to pull that off now.
Yeah,
If you were,
that's
That was my thought. Like on their first game, if you're going to do the Kickstarter route, like it's the whole this weird sort of cycle. Like I need like
Chicken or egg.
to get a job. Like I need the experience to get a good job. But the job is how I get the experience. So how do I and it's like, well, I need the money in order to get the artwork, in order to get the game, which gets me the money.
Yeah.
Which I need to get the artwork.
But so I guess you just need to tell that story in your Kickstarter campaign and say, hey, this is what Kickstarter is for. This is my first game, and I want to make this happen. It's going to take a little bit longer, but I need the Kickstarter money to pay for the art. And so if you tell that story, then I think you'll get support.
If I was to take everything away from you and you were to start all over again, and I wouldn't do that because we're friends, but if I was to do that, would you kickstarting your first game? Would you plan that in? Because you said everything needs to be planned out in the Kickstarter campaign. Would you plan that in as far as when you are saying the game is going to be ready in your first campaign? Say, hey guys, this I know this date seems far off in the future, but what you're getting is you're going to get a better product than I'm even advertising right here.
Right, I would now, but I know exactly how long things take, and that's something most first creators of Kickstarter campaigns
all the time.
They just don't understand.
Underestimate how long it takes.
Yeah,
well, you need the experience before you get the job, but to get okay.
How long does shipping take? How long does fulfillment take? How long does customs take? You need to know all of this. Manufacturing, art. How long does it take for an artist to create X number of cards and in this style, and it's really hard to predict, especially when you haven't done it before.
I'd say it's going to be under your personal financial situation too, and what you can float.
Yep.
I see a lot of game designers on Kickstarter who literally multiple times go bankrupt or cannot deliver their game because their costs spiraled out of control and ate up all their cash or cash flow. So if you can't afford to float that art and still pay your game manufacturer and still pay for shipping, then you usually need to scale down the amount of art you're using and go with a cheaper artist, or do more clip art, icon-based stuff, or don't pay for that art up front. So you need to make sure that you're planning this out financially to be responsible.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We'll continue this discussion next time. We're going to be talking about how we should be approaching artists, how we should talk to them, how we should actually go about finding an artist. If you want to see more of us on the Dice Tower, this is our sort of inaugural episode. We hope that you want to see more of this. We hope that you'll go back and see some of our other episodes on YouTube right now. If we have any questions, where should we go now? Because we just changed it up.
Yeah, we just created a BGG guild, so you can go there, and that's probably going to be the best place to do.
What's the name of the guild?
The Forbidden Limb, I believe.
Forbidden Limb Guild on BGG?
So
I should be able to go to BGG
in the podcast section
and just search for the Forbidden Limb.
Yeah, but also comments on the YouTube video too, that kind of thing. Just it would help because the idea here is that if everybody's interested in this kind of content on the business side of the tabletop game industry, then we can become hopefully a permanent part of the Dice Tower. But we need your help to talk about it, ask questions, and give feedback.
And we want to hear your questions so that we can come up with the topics that you want to hear about.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I've been Richard New. This is Jeremy Commander and Brian Hink. And thank you for joining us today. We've been the Forbidden Limb Podcast.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.